Welcome everyone. Today we're talking about salt. The type of salt you choose can make or break your ferment. In this video, we're breaking down the four most common salts you'll find in your kitchen, how they impact your brine, and why it actually matters. We'll start in the classroom to cover the science, then head into the kitchen to see these salts in action. We've got four different types of salt to cover, plus we'll throw in some bonus salts at the end of the classroom. Let's dive in and figure out which salt is best for your ferments. The image on the left is sodium. Sodium is a soft, reactive metal and an essential electrolyte that helps regulate fluid balance, nerve function, and muscle contractions in the human body. Sodium on its own is a highly reactive metal that could be toxic if consumed in pure form. However, in salt, it's stabilized by chloride, making it safe to eat. And image on the middle is chloride. Chloride is the negatively charged ion that pairs with sodium to form sodium chloride, aka table salt. It helps maintain fluid balance, blood pressure, and pH levels in the body, and is essential for producing stomach acid, which aids digestion. Salt is more than just seasoning, it controls the fermentation process. Different types of salt impact the microbial environment differently. We'll break down the four most common salts and their effects. Then we have two bonuses at the end. First on the list, kosher salt with anti-caking agents. Yellow prussiate of soda, YPS, is an anti-caking agent added to salt to prevent clumping, labeled as E535. While it's considered safe in small amounts, YPS can cause issues in fermentation due to how it interacts with bacteria. YPS is a ferrocyanide compound that contains iron and cyanide in a stable form. It doesn't release cyanide in food, but under certain acidic conditions, there is a theoretical risk of breaking down and releasing hydrogen cyanide, a toxic gas with bitter almond smell that some people cannot detect. YPS can also make your brine cloudier due to its iron content, which may result in a metallic or off taste toward the end of the fermentation. Personally, I avoid using kosher salt with anti-caking agents in my fermentations to ensure clean and a consistent brine. Next on the list, kosher salt without anti-caking agents. Kosher salt without anti-caking agents is one of my go-to salts for fermentation. It's clean, simple, and it doesn't mess with the process. Unlike table salt or salts with additives, it dissolves easily in brine and doesn't leave any residues behind. No cloudy water, no weird particles, just a clean, clear ferment. I like it because it gives me consistent results. Fermentation is a natural process and you want the right bacteria to do their job without any interference. When you're working with salts that have anti-caking agents or other additives, you're adding a variable to the process that you really don't need. Simplicity is key here. Next on the list, sea salt without iodine. Sea salt without iodine is another excellent choice for fermentation. It's natural, clean, and usually free of additives, which is exactly what you want when you're fermenting. Plus, it contains trace minerals like magnesium and calcium that can subtly enhance the flavor of your ferment. Because it's natural, sea salt can vary a bit depending on where it comes from. Different regions will have different mineral content, which might slightly change the flavor profile of your ferments. But honestly, it's such a subtle difference that most people won't even notice. Here's an important thing to keep in mind. make sure the sea salt you're using is additive free. Some brands sneak in anti-caking agents or even iodine, which can interfere with fermentation. Always check the label before you buy. At the end of the day, sea salt is a great, reliable option for fermenting. It's widely available, dissolves easily, and won't mess with the process. Next on the list, sea salt with iodine. Iodine is a chemical element that's essential for human health, especially for your thyroid gland. It helps regulate important hormones and prevents diseases like goiter, which is why many governments add iodine to table salt. It's an effective way to make sure populations get enough iodine, especially in areas where people don't get it naturally from their diet. But here's the thing, while iodine is great for your health, it's not great for your fermentation. Iodine is a disinfectant. It kills bacteria, viruses, fungi, basically everything. In fermentation, though, we need good bacteria like Isobacter to thrive. These bacteria do all the hard work, creating acidity, developing flavors, and preserving your ferment. But if there's iodine in your salt, it can interfere with their growth. Here's how it works. Iodine is highly reactive because it seeks to gain one more electron to complete its outer shell. In doing so, it penetrates bacteria cell walls and steals electrons, causing the proteins inside to denature. This breakdown of protein disrupts essential enzymes needed for growth and reproduction. Without these enzymes, the bacteria cannot function properly, which can slow down, even stall your fermentation process. That's why we recommend non-ionized salt for fermentation. You want to give the beneficial bacteria the best possible environment to thrive. Using salt without iodine keeps the process clean and simple, and it gives you the best chance at a successful ferment. Bonus salt number one. Pickling salt is one of those things you'll often see mentioned in fermentation recipes, but not everyone has it on hand, and honestly, you don't necessarily need it to make great ferments at home. It's pure salt, just sodium chloride, with no additives, no anti-caking agents, or iodine. That's what makes it ideal for pickling and fermentation. It dissolves easily in water and creates a clear, clean brine without any cloudiness or residue. Unlike table salt or kosher salt, pickling salt is very fine, almost powder-like. It's processed to remove any impurities and ensure that it stays pure sodium chloride. Because it's so fine, it dissolves quickly and evenly in brine, which is helpful when making large batches of pickles or fermented vegetables. Pickling salt became popular with people who do a lot of canning and preserving because it doesn't have any additives that could mess with the fermentation or preservation process. But like I said, it's not always available in regular grocery stores. And the good news is you don't need it to get started with fermenting at home. A good kosher salt without anti-caking agents or non-ionized sea salt will work just fine. So if you see a recipe that calls for pickling salt, know that it's great for fermentation, but don't stress about it if you can't find it. You've got other options. Next on our list, Epsom salt. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, not sodium chloride like regular salt. Some people might think about adding it to their brine, but it's not suitable for fermentation. It does not help create the right environment for beneficial bacteria and can interfere with the process. While it's great for relaxing muscles or boosting magnesium levels in the garden, it's not something you want in your ferment. Do not use it. Another really important thing that I want to mention in this video is volume versus weight. Measuring by volume can lead to inconsistencies. 1 tablespoon of fine sea salt weighs more than coarse kosher salt. Always measure by weight for consistent results. Now that we've covered the science behind salt, what it is, how it works, and why certain salts are better for fermentation, it's time to put this knowledge to use. Let's head to the kitchen where we'll see how these salts behave in water and what kind of brine they create. We'll get to see which salts dissolve cleanly, which ones leave residue, and why that matters for your ferments. Theory is great, but fermentation, it's all about hands-on practice. So let's dive in.